The stars didn't sing when his ship died. They fell silent. Ceylon Darrell stared into the black horizon as his vessel shook beneath him, warning sirens howling like wolves of old Earth. The trajectory was wrong, the hull integrity plummeting, and yet all he could think about was the curious fact that someone had intentionally rerouted him to this place, a red-class world, quarantined, untouchable. It was supposed to be myth. Nyari Prime. His fingers danced over emergency controls, sealing off damaged bulkheads. Fire spilled through Deck 4. Atmosphere was venting. Artificial gravity flickered. Initiate crash shield protocol, he said through gritted teeth. The ship obeyed, barely. A second later, the sky welcomed him like a clenched fist. He came to gasping, blood in his mouth, surrounded by a sea of alien trees that shimmered gold under a violet sun. Something wet dripped beside his head, the coolant reservoir ruptured above. His escape pod had ejected moments before impact, but he'd landed hard, judging by the way his ribs ached with every breath. He crawled free, dragging the precious crate that contained his research core and emergency biopack. "How in every spiral of space am I alive?" he muttered. Then, movement. Shadows, impossibly graceful. Before he could react, he was surrounded by 6 figures. Tall, lean, light of foot and silent as wind. Their skin shimmered like polished obsidian, with opalescent flecks. Eyes bright crimson, like burning comets. They wore woven garments that moved like water, and their hands held weapons made not of metal, but light. They spoke in a language that didn't touch his ears but shook the bones in his chest. "Wait," Ceylon said, raising both hands. "I'm not a soldier. I'm a scientist, xenobiologist. I was sabotaged. I didn't mean to." A sharp jab to his throat stopped the sentence. It didn't hurt. Just a prick, like a spider's kiss. Heat flushed through his spine, and then. "You can understand us now," the one nearest him said in a musical voice. "Good." What was that?" "Thread speaker serum," the being replied. "It grants temporary neural resonance." Ceylon blinked. "You're Nyari. But your planet is sealed, off-limits." "Yes. And you are here. Explain." "I didn't choose this," he said quickly. "My systems were tampered with. Someone wanted me here. But I'm not your enemy. My name is Ceylon Darrell. I'm a scientist." The Nyari leader stared at him, then turned to the others and said, "Bring him. Now." He was led, escorted, through forests that pulsed with life. The trees seemed to hum at his passing, reacting to his presence like animals sensing change. They reached what looked like a city grown rather than built. No hard edges, no metal. Towers rose from the ground like coral, wrapped in light and wind. Walkways floated between branches. Water flowed upward in impossible spirals. Ceylon was breathless. Not from fear. From awe. They brought him to a vast courtyard bathed in soft blue light. Beneath a great living canopy stood a dais, and upon it, a throne woven from crystal threads. Around it stood dozens of Nyari, dressed in flowing robes. But Ceylon's attention didn't stay with them. It fell on the girl. She lay suspended in the center of the chamber, her body hovering a few feet above the floor, weightless. Skin pale gray-blue, breathing shallow, a network of black veins like spiderwebs etched across her neck and arms. She didn't stir. A woman stood beside her, older, regal, her aura unshakable. Her gaze pinned Ceylon like a specimen. "This is the one who fell from the sky?" she asked. "Yes, Altine Vares," said the guard. "His arrival coincides with her collapse," another Nyari said sharply. "Coincidences," Ceylon murmured, "are only unexplained patterns." The older woman stepped forward. "I am Vares, guardian regent of Nyari Prime. You stand on sacred ground. Our daughter lies dying, and none of our healers can undo the toxin. Do you come with healing? Or harm? I'm a xenobiologist, he replied softly, stepping toward the floating girl. I study alien life forms, diseases, especially neurological toxins. What is she suffering from? We call it the shadow vine. It invaded her bloodstream 3 days ago. Now it coils around her mind. It kills with memory first, then breath. Ceylon's thoughts raced. That sounds like a quantum-reactive neurotoxin. She must have come in contact with something artificial. Manufactured. Do you have any of her blood? An elderly healer snapped, he should not touch her. It violates our sacred rites. And yet she dies under your care, Varys said coldly. That silenced them. Let me see her, Ceylon said. He approached the girl, princess, daughter, patient. Her name echoed somewhere in the chamber, Elantra. He crouched beside her floating body. Elantra, he whispered. You don't know me, and maybe you'll never hear this. But I'm going to try. He took a sample from the drip of fluid at her temple. Analyzed it through his portable bioscanner. The results were horrifying. The toxin wasn't just killing her, it was rewriting her. Erasing her neurons, memory by memory. But Ceylon had seen this before. Once. In an alien larva exposed to corrupted technotoxins near the Rim colonies. There was a way. Barely. I need my research core. And I need to synthesize a retroneural filament. It'll need to interface with your emotional field. Do your people use any kind of bioempathic feedback? We are born of it, said Varys. Good. Because she won't survive unless we do this together. The Nyari lab was like nothing he'd ever seen. No metal. No plastic. Tools grew from vines, adjusted to his thoughts, changed shape when he asked. And yet, they'd never been used the way he needed them to. He pulled up the sequence. Mapped the toxin. Designed the counteragent. Not to destroy the toxin, but to redirect it. Make it ignore her memories. Lure it into a false trail, then bind it in place. He mixed the solution in silence, sweat dripping down his spine. Please work. The final moment came like a heartbeat held too long. He stood beside her, vial in hand. The room was silent. This may kill her faster, he warned. Or it might be the only way. Varys looked at him, no fear, just resolve. We give her to your hands. Ceylon touched the vial to her neck, and it dissolved into her skin. Light pulsed outward. At first, nothing. Then her breath caught. Her back arched. Black veins shimmered, and then began to fade. One by one. Until there were none. Hours later, she opened her eyes. Red like galaxies. Unfocused. Beautiful. You're not Nyari, she whispered. Ceylon smiled softly. No, but I am the one who caught you when you fell. I didn't fall, she murmured. I was pulled. So was I. Varys stepped forward. You cured her. Yes. Then by our law, she said, her voice calm, but deadly final, you have accepted our vow. Ceylon frowned. What vow? The eternal vow, Varys said. Her life is now yours, bound by heart thread. You saved her. Now she belongs to you, and you to her, forever. Elantra's eyes widened. And Ceylon's heart, for the first time, didn't race with fear. It fluttered with something else. They called it a bond of stars, a sacred entanglement born from desperation and fulfilled through salvation. But to Elantra Valori, it felt more like a cage. 3 days had passed since she woke, her breath no longer catching in her throat, her blood no longer poisoned. Life returned to her veins, but freedom, she feared, had quietly fled. She sat beneath the rain lights of the central garden, watching as silver droplets shimmered in slow motion, falling from the hovering blossoms and dissolving midair before they touched the ground. The flora of Nyari Prime was responsive to emotional presence. Today, it wept for her. Her mind still ached from the bond, heart thread, they called it, woven without her consent. She was alive. Saved. But bound. To him. Ceylon Durrell. The Terran man with two soft eyes and two quiet footsteps. He moved like someone who knew too much grief to speak of it, and yet smiled like someone who wanted to believe again. That made it worse. Because she didn't hate him. Not yet. When he entered the garden that morning, the lights dimmed slightly, recognizing his presence and responding to the tension that rippled between them. "You're not avoiding me," Ceylon said gently. "I am," she replied without looking up. He didn't sit beside her. Instead, he knelt near one of the heart-bloom vines, observing the way its petals coiled and uncoiled with the rhythm of her pulse. He didn't speak again for a while. And that unsettled her more than any protest would have. "You're not Nyari," she finally said. "You don't understand what this bond means." He nodded. "I'm trying to. But I didn't ask for this either, Elantra." Her name on his tongue. Not wrong. Just strange. "That doesn't make it better," she whispered. "You think you rescued me. But now, every moment I breathe, I feel you in my thoughts. Fragments of your memories. Your fears. Your loneliness. They slip into mine without permission." He exhaled. "I feel you, too. Then you should understand why I'm angry." "I do." They said the bond would fade over time if left untended. It could become dormant. But if nurtured, if willingly embraced, it would grow stronger, until it became unbreakable. Elantra didn't know what terrified her more. A week later, she stood before the Temple of Union, robes draped over her like moonlight, bare feet touching the songstone floor. The council insisted on a ceremonial observation, not a marriage, but a vow renewal to solidify the life debt in the presence of their ancestors. Ceylon stood opposite her, clad in Nyari white. Foreign. Silent. Respectful. "You may speak your truth," the elder intoned. Elantra took a breath. "I was not given a choice in my cure. Nor in my vow. But I will honor it, because I believe in purpose. And perhaps this bond has one. But I do not love this man. Not yet. And I do not belong to him." The room fell still. The elder frowned. Ceylon didn't look hurt. He looked relieved. "Thank you," he said, soft and sure. "For saying what needed to be said." That night, she found him in the old observatory, seated alone beneath a dome of glass as twin moons passed overhead. He was sketching something, plants, it looked like. Ones from his home. "Your drawings are ugly," she said without venom. "I'm a scientist, not an artist." "Good. I'd hate to think someone could be good at both." They sat in silence. "Why are you here?" she asked finally. "You mean here in this room, or here on Nyari Prime?" "Both." He set the sketch aside. "I studied quantum toxins because I lost someone to one. A woman. A friend. Maybe more. She was infected during a research expedition on Beltaroon. I couldn't save her. When I saw your symptoms, I couldn't let it happen again." Elantra stared at him. "And now? Now, I'm not sure what I've done. I saved a life. But maybe I took something too." She tilted her head. "You didn't take it. Our law did. Do you resent it?" She hesitated. "I resent the weight of it. But you? I don't know you enough to resent you." Their eyes met. A flicker of something passed between them. Not a spark. Not yet. But a promise of one. Their time together was no longer monitored. No longer enforced. Yet they found themselves drifting toward each other more often than not. During a state visit to the waterfall temple, their hands brushed briefly. The heart thread pulsed between them, warm, steady. At a healer's symposium, she caught him staring at her, not with possession, but wonder. She pretended not to notice the way it made her heart tilt sideways. A month after the bond was formed, they were summoned to the high peak sanctum. A pilgrimage site only visited once in a lifetime. Why us? Ceylon asked. Because, Elantra said, the heart thread has not faded. They ascended alone. No guides. No guards. Only wind, stone, and stars. This is where I first touched Shadowvine, she told him. I was meditating. Someone left a sliver of it in the offering basin. Intentional. Precise. Sabotage, Ceylon said, voice tight. Yes. But no one knows who. A silence stretched between them. There's something else, she said, voice barely above wind. When I was dying, I saw something. A vision. Of you. Before you arrived. I felt you coming. He stared at her. That's impossible. Is it? They reached the sanctum, carved into the mountain like a mouth whispering secrets. Inside, light danced on crystal. And their bond pulsed so strongly that she staggered. What is this place? Ceylon asked. The root chamber, she breathed. Our ancestors believed all heart threads trace back to this nexus. If we step forward, and open ourselves to it, the bond will become permanent. Ceylon didn't move. Do you want that? She asked. He didn't answer. Not with words. Instead, he reached for her hand. Not to claim it. But to offer it. She hesitated. Then took it. They didn't step forward that day. They stood at the edge of forever and chose not to leap, not yet. But their hearts. They had already taken the first step. And for now, that was enough. Space had always whispered to Roan Mercel. Not the kind of whisper you followed for comfort. No, space whispered truths. Ugly, seething things. Betrayal wrapped in silence. Promises folded in black. He was presumed dead now. That suited him. His old research partner, Ceylon Durrell, was alive and playing savior among the Nyari. The very species Roan had once admired, before they branded him unworthy and cast him out when he dared question the nature of the eternal vow. Life debts. Heart threads. Soul bonding. Slavery dressed in poetry. He had loved a Nyari once. Deeply. Foolishly. She died because of the vow. Not from a disease. Not from violence. She simply vanished inside him. Into him. The bond consumed her mind first, her memories next, then her very essence. And they called it devotion. He called it death. So now he would return to Nyari Prime, not as a man begging re-entry. But as the hand that would sever every thread. Roan stood at the helm of the Vesper Hollow, a stolen research vessel re-engineered with psionic amplifiers. His team, rogue thinkers, outcast healers, ex-Nyari scholars, worked silently beside him. Among them, Sarah, his second-in-command, a psion who had once nearly been bonded against her will. Are the nodes calibrated? Roan asked. Yes. The core will reach full resonance once we enter their orbit. And the frequency? Tuned to heart thread wavelengths. It will target bonded minds only. Roan allowed himself a thin smile. Good. Once it begins, they'll feel the truth. Not connection. Not romance. Possession. And maybe then, they'll tear down their own shrine. Sarah glanced at him. You're sure Ceylon will resist? Roan's smile faded. He's a good man. That's the problem. On Nyari Prime, Ceylon's days were filled with measured peace. He and Elantra no longer avoided each other. In the span of weeks, they'd moved from wary allies to something softer. Not lovers, not yet. But confidants. Quiet moments passed between them like feathers, easily missed if not cherished. Elantra often joined him in the lower green halls, watching as he documented their species' symbiotic biology. She rarely spoke during his work, but her presence soothed the edges of his thoughts. She smiled more now. And when she touched his hand, it lingered. They had not sealed the vow at the root chamber. But the bond had changed. Grown. It no longer stole from them, it gave. He dreamed of her sometimes. But the dreams weren't his. The explosion shattered the eastern sky at dusk. Ceylon and Elantra both turned from the temple terrace, where they'd been observing a new plant's empathic pulses. Black smoke rose from a hilltop tower, and alarms rippled through the songstones. "That's the communications array," Elantra whispered. "It's how we connect to other colonies." Ceylon's gut twisted. This isn't random. Moments later, Varys, the regent, arrived with elite guards. "We are under attack. But not by force. Something is targeting our empathic grid. It's disrupting bonded minds across the capital." "How many are affected?" Ceylon asked. "Dozens. Possibly hundreds. Some are collapsing. Others are experiencing memory bleed. But the worst, are losing identity." Elantra's voice dropped. "You mean, they're unraveling?" Varys nodded grimly. "And if the signal continues, the entire network of vows will collapse." Ceylon looked at Elantra. They both knew. This wasn't sabotage. This was war. Roan stepped into the outer temple ruins on the edge of Nyari capital, his team working quickly to embed amplifier nodes in ancient stone. The vibrations here still held echoes of the first vow, the one that began their species' obsession with binding hearts. "We're ahead of schedule," Sarah said. "Good. He'll come for us." "You think he'll fight you?" "I think he'll hesitate. And in hesitation, we'll win." Sarah looked away. "And if Elantra chooses him?" Roan's voice cooled. "Then she'll die his prisoner." When Ceylon entered the ruins, he didn't come armed. He came with the bond. He and Elantra had traced the psychic echo back here. It pulsed in the soil now, invasive, angry. "Roan," Ceylon called out. "I know it's you." His former friend stepped into view, older now. His face lined with grief, but his eyes full of purpose. "You look well," Roan said. "Bonded and content. How quaint." "This isn't you," Ceylon said. "You were the most compassionate man I knew." Roan laughed. "Compassion? Is that what you call enabling slavery?" Elantra stepped forward. "You desecrate what our people hold sacred." "You mean what holds you hostage," Roan said. "Can you even tell where your thoughts end and his begin? Do you even remember who you were before he touched your mind?" Elantra flinched. Ceylon felt it. Roan smiled. "See? Even now, your bond bleeds confusion into her." "Enough," Ceylon said quietly. "You've already caused a breach in over 60 active heart threads. Do you know what that does to someone mid-bond?" Roan nodded. "It sets them free." "No," Elantra said. "It shatters them." Roan raised a hand, and the ruins pulsed with wave energy. Elantra gasped, clutching her head. Ceylon grabbed her before she fell. "She's fighting it," Roan said. "But she won't win. Not unless you sever the thread yourself." "I won't," Ceylon said. "Because we're not bound by force anymore." He turned to her, eyes steady. "We chose this. Didn't we?" Her eyes were wet. But she nodded. "Yes. I choose you." And the moment she said it, the heart thread between them pulsed, and then ignited. Light spilled out from their hands, flowing in arcs of silver and gold. It met the amplifier's corrupted signal and tore through it. Roan screamed. "No, this isn't love, it's surrender." Ceylon's voice was quiet. "No, Roan. Surrender would have been walking away." Elantra's voice joined his. This was defiance. Together. The ruins cracked. The amplifiers shorted. And the wave collapsed. Roan fell to his knees. The psychic storm stilled. Roan didn't die. But he didn't stay, either. They exiled him again. Only this time, he walked away willingly. When he turned back, his expression was unreadable. A ghost of regret, a flicker of loss. Maybe once, he'd wanted to save them all. But in the end, he had only wanted to be saved himself. The aftermath was quiet. Many bonds had frayed beyond repair. Others were healing. But one, just one, had emerged stronger than any recorded in Nyari history. Not because of obligation. Not because of law. But because, in the face of shattering, Ceylon and Elantra had chosen to stay. Together. She lived in the quiet between starlight and ruin. Ilian Sorrel, once Nyari's most gifted empath, now drifted alone in the hollows of the void, a bioship fashioned from a dying asteroid, its inner walls pulsing with memories that weren't always hers. She'd severed her heart thread 37 years ago. The echo of it never left her. They had called her a heretic. A deviant. Some said the severing had broken her mind. Others said she had seen too much. But none returned from that kind of loss without scars stitched across the soul. And now, a bonded pair was coming to her. Willing. Afraid. Burning with questions only the severed could answer. Ilian felt them approaching before their vessel even breached orbit. Their bond, bright, flickering, volatile, throbbed like a fever. She opened her mind. And let them in. Ceylon watched the docking procedure through the viewport, uncertain. "She lives out here, completely alone?" he asked. Elantra nodded. "Not alone. The bioship responds to her emotional field. It keeps her company." "Sounds like a prison." "It used to be. Now it's a sanctuary." They stepped onto the deck of hallowed silence, their boots sinking slightly into a soft, luminescent floor. The walls shimmered with breathing patterns, alive, as if the ship were sighing. Ilian awaited them by a chamber of transparent crystal. Her eyes, blind but glowing, regarded them without judgment. "You came," she said. Her voice was brittle, but sharp. "I wondered if you would." Elantra bowed slightly. "We seek understanding." Ilian laughed, dry and soft. "Understanding? No one bonded ever asks for that. They come for permission. To love. Or to leave." Ceylon stepped forward. "We need to know, what happens to us if the bond keeps growing?" Ilian tilted her head. "Are you afraid of love?" "I'm afraid of losing myself in it," he said honestly. Elantra looked away. "And I'm afraid I already have." They spent 4 days on hallowed silence. Ilian led them through memory chambers, where fragments of old bonds played like illusions, pairs long gone, some gentle, some violent, some ending in joy, others in madness. They watched a pair who fused completely, speaking in one voice. Another who drifted apart slowly, painfully, until their bond faded like dying stars. A third, Ilian's own. He had been her bondmate, years ago. Brilliant, joyful, impulsive. But when the bond deepened too fast, he lost his individuality, merging into her until only echoes of who he once was remained. He had smiled, even in the end. And then disappeared. "You think we'll end up like that?" Elantra asked Ceylon that night as they lay on the woven pulse bed. He hesitated. "I don't know. I feel you inside me," she said quietly. "Not just thoughts, wants. fears. Your memories whisper to mine. Sometimes I forget if I dreamed them, or if you did. He sat up. Maybe that's not a curse. No, but it's not always a gift. She looked at him. Eyes wide. Vulnerable. Ceylon, I love you, she said. But not because of the bond. I want to love you. But I need to know that it's me who's loving, not a thread pulling me there. He reached out. Didn't touch her. Let her choose. She took his hand. And rested her forehead against his. Then let's find a way to know, he whispered. Ilian offered a test. A dangerous one. Mirror severance. Enter each other's minds. Willingly. Without the bond's filter. Expose the raw self. See what remains. If love endures without the bond, then it's real. It may hurt, she warned. And if either of you hides anything, it will shatter the balance. Your minds will collapse together. They agreed. Not out of recklessness. Out of hope. The mirror space was not light. Not dark. It was truth. Ceylon found himself in a memory not his own, a garden from Elantra's childhood, filled with silver leaves. A voice echoed, her father, before his death. She had loved fiercely, lost deeply. He turned, and she stood there. Then, he fell into his own memory. A lab explosion. Screaming. A woman dying in his arms. Not Elantra. Someone before. Elantra saw it all. His grief. His fear of failing again. And then, his love for her. Not born of duty. Not born of the vow. Just her. Only her. They emerged hours later, tangled in breath and tears. I still love you, she whispered. Not because I must. And I choose you, he replied. Every version of me. Ilian watched them silently. They glowed. Even after the severance trial. They had passed. The bond remained, but now it was just one thread among many. Not a cage. A constellation. As they left the hallowed silence, Ceylon looked back. Will you ever bond again, he asked. Ilian smiled softly. I'm already bonded. To memory. To silence. To what remains. And what remains? The choice.